Welcome back to Critterhead TV. I'm Jed Dodds, and the man standing next to me you know as Clint Elliott. Now, Clint, usually on our Critterhead TV shows, we are dealing with either a wild animal and or a domesticated animal, talking about some misunderstood things around those animals or some cool facts. But today we're doing something a little bit different.
We are, because of the recent explosion in the exotic pet industry, and because Arizona has so many really cool native species, people have started collecting those wild animals from Arizona and bringing them into their home as pets.
And so today we will be looking at the Western Banded Gecko, a species native to the Sonoran Desert. It's a really amazing animal, but unfortunately people want to bring those into their homes. Why is this a bad idea?
Western Banded geckos are extremely important to our local ecosystems because of what they eat. They eat things like cockroaches and termites, which if you take a Western Banded gecko out of this local ecosystem, those animals, pest animals, can really proliferate.
Which is obviously something we don't want. Now, what's the attraction? Why are people finding the Western Banded Gecko as an exciting animal to bring in their home?
As you can see, they are easily one of the most beautiful lizards on Earth. They have really vibrant colors and patterns, and also the way they hunt is also very interesting to people. You can see the eyes in front, which indicates an active hunter. So when you put a cricket or another food item into the habitat, they'll stalk it like a cat, which is really fun to watch.
So Clint, we know that the Western Banded Gecko is not a good animal to bring into our home, but we need to find an alternative. So what do we do?
Well, we are going to go see Lee at Ever Evolving Exotics here in Tucson. He is an expert at exotic pets, and he really knows his stuff. I'm always excited to go there, so let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited also because he's got a new place. So let's go check out an alternative to the Western Banded Gecko.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Well, we have made it back to Ever Evolving Exotics, and we are joined by Lee again. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Critterhead TV. You might remember Lee from one of our old episodes of our poison dart frogs, and back then we were in a different store. You're in a new location here.
Yes, we are now here on Broadway, just east of Kolb. We've been here about 6 weeks now.
Yeah, it's an amazing store, guys. Really convenient for us at the ranch because it's only about 2 miles away. But yeah, come and see Lee. He really knows what he's talking about.
Well, today we are talking about the Western Banded Gecko and a couple other alternatives that are going to be better for if somebody wants to bring maybe a first-time reptile into their house. Absolutely. Western Banded Geckos, of course, indigenous species, not an animal that we recommend having, but we want to take a look at two lizards today that are a little bit easier. So who are we going to be looking at?
First one's going to be the Leopard Gecko, a real nice arid species. And the second is probably my go-to pet reptile, which are called Crested Geckos.
Yeah, they're both amazing. But why don't we start with the Leopard Gecko because they are an arid species like the Western Gecko.
All right, let's take a look. Yeah. All right, Lee, so we have our Leopard Gecko. Wow, it's amazing. Now, is this a full-grown adult?
It is. Nice chunky one, too.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into a couple of specifics if somebody does want to bring this animal into their home.
Sure.
Let's talk about lifespan. How long can this animal live?
These are kind of long-lived. They can live 20 to 30 years pretty easily.
So it's a pretty big commitment if somebody is interested in bringing a lizard in. I mean, sometimes we think of lizards maybe that they don't have as long of a lifespan. 20, 30 years, that's a pretty big commitment.
It surprises a lot of people.
Okay, and so how about its habitat? So how big of a terrarium would I need to get to house an adult leopard gecko for its lifespan?
We have ours set up in a 40-gallon enclosure down there, but you can realistically go big as you want to.
And as we said, these animals are more dry adapted, so we don't need a lot of moisture in there, but we probably need some heat and some proper lighting that reflects or that symbolizes that sun.
Yeah. So these guys are nocturnal, so we try to create about a 90-degree basking spot. But we still we create little crevices for them to be able to disappear into and hide. And we also create a little humid hide. Even desert animals will have little bits of access to humidity, and we provide that in their setup.
Okay, very cool. Now let's talk about diet. What does a leopard gecko eat?
These guys, pretty much anything that moves. So we feed them majority crickets, little dubia, all sorts of different worms. But if it's an insect, for the most part, they'll eat it.
Dubia is a cockroach.
Yes,
right.
A delicious cockroach.
Yes.
Yes.
And that gets us into a little bit of adaptations, Clint, that are very similar to that of the Western Banded Gecko.
They are, for sure. So, Lee, we were going to be talking about crested geckos and leopard geckos as being good kind of first-time pets, introduction pets. How do they differ, other than just the leopard gecko being dry adapted? Is it fun to watch them hunt?
It's absolutely fun to watch them hunt. They kind of stalk their food.
Yeah.
They'll look at them from the front there. Their little tail will get a wiggling if they get excited. And they, like I said, they kind of stalk their prey, which is quite enjoyable to watch.
Which is very similar to the Western Banded Gecko.
Yeah, yes.
And different from the Crested Gecko.
Yes, the Crested Geckos will eat a lot more fruit-type stuff. They're also insectivores, but these guys, that's all they'll eat. They're not eating any of that.
And this guy looks very comfortable in your hands, so I assume for people that do handle them often, they get comfortable with their owner, and it is a lizard that we can take out and handle properly, which of course we want to have some training that goes into that, how to actually handle this animal. Are they fast?
They can be when they want to, of course, as any animal, but for the most part, if you're calm, they're going to be calm. Watch your animal for, it getting stressed out like anything, but if you support their whole body and you're comfortable, as you can see, she does not seem to want to get away whatsoever.
All right, well, I love the leopard gecko, but we have another lizard to check out, so why don't we go and take a look at the crested gecko?
Absolutely.
All right, Lee, so we now have our crested gecko, and this guy looks about the same size as the leopard gecko, but has some really cool adaptations. And one of those is that these guys are found more in a jungle habitat. And so how would we set up a terrarium for a crested gecko?
Yes, so we want to do something that's a little taller than the crested versus wide. And these guys also need a considerable amount more humidity than a leopard gecko does.
Okay, and we want it taller because they are arboreal, which means that they have the ability to climb and like to climb.
Like he's doing right now.
We can see these modified little pads on their feet that give them grip, and they also have a prehensile tail.
Yes, like
that prehensile tail helps them to be able to hold on to tree branches, and so that's why we want to be a little bit taller than our leopard gecko. Now, we talked about diets. What do these guys eat?
These guys are, they're omnivores, so they'll eat fruit as well as insects. But in captivity, we usually feed them a gecko-specific diet. It's actually quite good. I've tried it before.
Okay, how often are we feeding that? Is that every day? Is that twice a day?
Every other day is pretty much recommended. You want to feed them enough where they always have it in there, when they can choose. Here we go. But it's just a little bowl of food, and you feed that every other day. We offer insects at most about once a week.
Okay. Now, we talked about lifespan with our leopard gecko, about 20 to 30 years. Is that about the same with this guy?
It actually is, about 20 to 30 years.
So another big commitment if we are looking to bring these guys into our house. How about, do either one of these guys like companions? Are they solitary? Can you have multiple of them?
It's one of those it's good until it isn't scenarios. So 2 males are always a no-go. A male and female can be really rough because they actually retain sperm for many months. Once she just breeds once, these geckos, both of them, will produce 2 eggs almost every other month for 8+ months.
Wow.
So all it takes is 1 breeding attempt. So if you put them together, you want to make sure you want babies. And females can definitely be done okay with the right environment, with enough space to get around, and multiple feeding opportunities. So it can be done, but there's a lot of planning. I would suggest 1 per enclosure, ideally, especially if you're just starting out.
Now, when we talk about handability of each one of these animals, our Crescent Gecko seems a little bit more agile. I got him. He's all right there. Yeah, he can just climb right up there. So we can see how,
as you can see, these guys love to jump around.
They are, and these guys do like to jump around. So that's something to think about when we are bringing them in, especially if we do have other pets. So if we have dogs or cats in the house, we do want to make sure that we're not putting them in a scenario where we're going to kind of have a conflict with any of our other animals.
Absolutely. It's something to consider with both leopard geckos and these. These guys have graceful jumps. Leopard geckos just kind of go off things. So if you're in your house, sitting on a couch really helps. If you do have animals that you're not sure of, maybe have it start from a distance. We also have dogs and cats and all sorts of reptiles.
Yep.
And you just got to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Now, we talked about the leopard gecko being nocturnal. I see the eyes of this guy here. He's got some pretty big eyes, which typically means that we are nocturnal as well. All right.
Up at night, they need those big old eyes, and they don't have eyelids when it's super cool to watch them lick their little eyeballs. Well, not so little eyeballs.
All right, Lee, well, thank you for introducing us to the leopard gecko and the crested gecko, 2 great geckos for a first-time reptile owner that is interested in bringing one into their house. Cannot thank you enough. And like with every animal, make sure to do your research. And if you want any more information or where to get some of those amazing animals, make sure to come and see Lee here at Ever Evolving Exotics. We can't thank you enough for being on our episode, and hopefully we'll see you next time for some more fun critters.
Thank you.
So Clint, we're back here at the ranch after a great trip to Ever Evolving Exotics, where we got to see a couple of really cool alternatives to the Western Banded Gecko, which of course is the Leopard Gecko and the Crested Gecko.
Yeah, I love going to see Lee. I learn something new every time.
Now, before we leave, we do want to show you the difference between a Western Banded Gecko and a Leopard Gecko up close. And it just so happens your daughter Vanessa has a Leopard Gecko as a pet, and we were able to find a couple Western Banded Geckos here on the ranch.
Yeah, it's really easy. Pretty much any log you turn over, you're going to find a Western Banded Gecko.
Well, we're going to get you up close to be able to see the difference. One of the first things you'll notice is the size difference between the Leopard Gecko and the Western Banded Gecko.
Yeah, this is an almost full-grown Western Banded Gecko, and you can just see the massive difference in size.
The other thing you may notice is the temperament. Our Leopard Gecko is going to pretty much sit calmly in your hand, where the Western Banded Gecko is moving quite a bit, and that's really because the Leopard Geckos are more habituated to being with humans.
Yeah, our Western Banded Geckos have been wild animals in Arizona for thousands of years. Their temperament isn't going to change anytime soon.
One of the similarities you may see is where their eyes are focused. Having those eyes in the front means that they are active hunters, tracking down their prey and then going after and consuming it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes them so attractive to some pet owners, because they love to put a cricket into the habitat and watch the animal hunt.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode and learning all about our Western Banded Gecko and really why they should stay in the desert. And if you're looking for an exotic lizard to bring into your home, there's some great alternatives out there. We'll see you next episode here on Critter Ed TV, where fear becomes wonder and wonder becomes fashion. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.